What is up, everybody? We are back for another episode, and today I want to talk a little bit more about ERP and something called imaginary exposures, which I think can be really beneficial during this time of self-isolation. So we talked a little bit about ERP, and we know that ERP is exposing ourselves to those triggers that trigger us, spark the anxiety, that the compulsions follow. So we know that, and we know by exposing ourselves to this intentionally, it trains our brain and teaches our brain that there's no danger here. And so ERP in the beginning, it's kind of like living with a decent level of anxiety all the time. You have to, live with that anxiety and let your body habituate to the anxiety, and over time the anxiety will go down, and what will happen is it'll stay down. And people with OCD, they'll hear that and they'll think, like, why am I going to live with anxiety all the time? Like, why am I going to do that? At least when I'm triggered naturally, I can do my compulsion, then my anxiety's down for a little while. And why that is because those spikes and drops are so much more intense than just knowing that you're going to be doing these exposures and having the anxiety for a period of time. And in my own experience, what has happened is, at first, the first couple weeks of doing the exposures, you have a lot of anxiety. You have to prepare for it. But then over time, those spikes, they don't hit so high. And when the anxiety goes down, it'll stay there for a while. So that's really the basis of ERP. And I had done my first therapy session over Skype with my therapist, which was, besides the situation on why we were doing it, I thought it was pretty cool. So we sat here and we were talking about different ways to continue to do ERP during this time. And she had told me something that I hadn't learned before, which was the imaginary exposures. And when she said that, I kind of thought, like, for a split second, I thought, I don't see how that'll work. And then I realized, like, how creative we are and people with OCD are, and how as well as I do that you can probably just start to think about all the uncertainty for a certain situation, and you can spike your anxiety. And maybe it's not as great of a spike as if it happened naturally, but that you can, for example, for contamination, you can do something like go get your mail and then start to, maybe that spikes your anxiety right now just a little bit. But what you can do is start to think, well, what if this has a virus on it? What if, if the person that touched this had a disease or had HIV or was sick, and start to really, hype that anxiety up. And you might be thinking, like, why am I going to do that? And that's because you want to get to that place where these exposures, they don't affect you as much. And then when they happen naturally, your mind will click to, hey, we know we're not going to react to that. We know we're okay with living with uncertainty. So we're not gonna freak out about this. We might feel it for a little while and then let it be. And another way you can work on that with, maybe your theme isn't so much contamination and it's, repetitions and checking. What you can do is, let's say, for me, it used to be walking over thresholds. I'd have to do them again and again and again until it feels right. Maybe as you're walking to a threshold, you can start to think, like, oh no, if my left foot goes first before my right foot, something bad will happen. Get that anxiety going, then step over with your left foot first. Maybe it's not as great, like we said, as if it happened naturally, but you do that, and over time, just around your house, you start to get these exposures. Maybe you turn the coffee pot off once and then go for a walk, and as you're walking, you start to think about it on purpose, start to, like, feel that anxiety build in your chest, and then just sit with it, and just go along with that. So I think imaginary exposures, although I've lived with an OCD my entire life and I've never been told about them, so I thought it was super cool, and I wanted to share it with all of you because I think it's a great tool that you can utilize during this time where we're all in self-isolation to keep your OCD and ERP therapy going, So I just wanted to share that with you. I hope this video helped. Like always, please like the video so that other people can find it. Subscribe and leave me a comment on some of the things you're doing in your OCD treatment during this time. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.